Supreme Admiral Young-Ho Choi stood in the command center of the massive dreadnought Sol's Wrath. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. What he saw would have been impossible to imagine 2 years ago. Humanity now controlled more territory than they had ever possessed in their history. Every former Velthan colony had been liberated. Every alien military base had been destroyed. Every Velthan fleet had been either eliminated or scattered into hiding. The species that had once threatened to exterminate, humanity was now running for their lives. Young-Ho had been fighting this war for 18 months since the counterattack began. What started as desperate resistance had become systematic conquest. Human forces were not just defeating the Velthans, they were erasing every trace of Velthan military power from the galaxy. The transformation was remarkable. Humans had gone from being considered a minor species to becoming the most feared military force anyone had ever seen. Other alien civilizations watched in amazement as humanity dismantled an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years. But Young-Ho knew the war was not over yet. The Velthan leadership had retreated to their heavily fortified home system. They still commanded several million soldiers and thousands of warships. If humanity wanted to end this threat permanently, they would have to finish what the aliens had started. General Hae-Won Kim commanded the human forces attacking Velthan colony worlds. Her job was not to capture these planets or rule their populations. Her mission was much simpler: remove every piece of Velthan military equipment from existence. Hae-Won's armies did not fight traditional battles. They conducted what she called sterilization operations. When human forces arrived at a Velthan world, they would systematically destroy every weapon factory, every training facility, every supply depot, and every piece of technology that could be used for warfare. The aliens were not murdered like they had murdered humans, but their ability to make war was completely eliminated. Velthan civilians were left alive, but they were left defenseless and unable to rebuild their military power. "We are not genocidal monsters like they were," Hae-Won explained to her officers, "but we will make absolutely certain they can never threaten another species again. Their capacity for violence ends here." The sterilization operations were incredibly thorough. Human engineers studied captured Velthan technology until they understood every component, every manufacturing process, and every supply chain. Then they destroyed not just the finished weapons, but also the knowledge and materials needed to build new ones. Dr. Wu Jin Kang's memory killer virus had evolved during the war. The latest version could erase technical information so completely that even Velthan scientists could not remember how their own technology worked. Entire generations of alien engineering knowledge simply vanished. The psychological impact on the Velthans was devastating. For thousands of years, they had been the predators. They had hunted other species across the galaxy, confident in their technological and military superiority. Now they were the prey, hiding in terror from an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with every battle. Captain Yeon-Soo Park commanded the assault fleet approaching the Velthan home system. Her ships represented the finest military technology humanity had ever created. Each vessel incorporated lessons learned from 2 years of constant warfare against the most advanced enemy humans had ever faced. But Yeon-Soo's fleet was more than just technologically superior. It was staffed by soldiers who had personal reasons for being there. Many of her crews were survivors of the original Velthan attacks. They had watched their families murdered, their homes destroyed, their entire world sterilized by alien genocide. These were not professional soldiers fighting for abstract political goals. These were survivors seeking justice for crimes that could never be forgiven or forgotten. The Velthan home system was the most heavily defended location in their empire. Millions of mines floated in space around the outer planets. Massive orbital fortresses protected the approaches to the main world. The aliens had spent their entire history building defenses that were supposed to be impregnable. None of it mattered against human determination. Yeon-Soo's fleet did not try to fight through the Velthan defenses. Instead, they used a strategy that perfectly demonstrated how humans thought about warfare. They bypassed the fortifications entirely and attacked the infrastructure supporting them. Human ships targeted the supply convoys carrying food and fuel to the orbital fortresses. They destroyed the communication networks that coordinated defensive operations. They eliminated the repair facilities that maintained the defensive weapons. Within weeks, the mighty Velthan defenses began falling apart from within. Fortress crews abandoned their positions when their life support systems failed. Minefields became useless when the control computers stopped working. The aliens' greatest stronghold became a collection of isolated, helpless targets. The final battle took place in orbit, around the Velthan homeworld itself. The alien leadership had gathered every remaining ship in their empire for one last desperate fight. They knew this was their final chance to stop the human advance. The Velthan Supreme Commander sent a message to Yansu before the battle began. "You have proven your species is strong. We offer terms for coexistence. Our empires can share the galaxy in peace." Yansu's response was broadcast throughout both fleets. "You had your chance for coexistence. You chose genocide instead. Now you face the consequences of that choice." The battle was not even close. The Velthans were fighting with equipment that was breaking down due to the memory killer virus. Their crews were demoralized and terrified. Many of their ships had been sabotaged by alien civilians who no longer supported the war. Human forces, on the other hand, were fighting with perfect coordination and unshakable determination. Every weapon worked exactly as designed. Every tactical plan was executed flawlessly. Every soldier knew exactly why they were fighting and what victory would mean. The Velthan fleet was destroyed in 6 hours. Some alien ships exploded under human fire. Others simply stopped working when their computer systems failed. A few tried to surrender, but their communications had been destroyed by the silence maker devices. When the battle ended, the Velthan Empire effectively ceased to exist as a military power. Their government still controlled their homeworld, but they had no way to project force beyond their own atmosphere. Their 1,000-year reign of terror was over, but Young-Ho knew that military victory was not enough. The galaxy needed to understand what had happened here. Future species had to learn the lesson that the Velthans had taught through their own destruction. Dr. So-Young Kim led the team that documented the entire war for historical records. Her reports would be distributed to every intelligent species in the galaxy. The documents included detailed evidence of Velthan genocide campaigns, records of their systematic extermination of 17 different civilizations, and proof of their plans to continue these atrocities indefinitely. More importantly, the records showed how humanity had responded to this threat. They demonstrated that a species facing extinction could fight back successfully if they were willing to commit everything to total war. The documentation served as both a historical record and a warning. Any future species that considered genocide would have to remember what happened to the Velthans when they made that choice. Commander Taemin Park, now much older and scarred by years of warfare, stood before the Galactic Council to deliver humanity's final statement on the war. Representatives from hundreds of species listened as he spoke. 2 years ago, you called us a minor species. You watched as the Velthans attempted to exterminate every human in the galaxy. Some of you probably thought we deserved our fate because we were too weak to defend ourselves. Taemin paused and looked around the vast assembly hall. Every alien representative was listening carefully. They had all seen what humanity was capable of when truly threatened. The Velthan Empire existed for over 1,000 years. They conquered hundreds of worlds. They exterminated 17 intelligent species. They considered themselves the ultimate predators in the galaxy. His voice grew harder as he continued. That empire no longer exists. Their military is destroyed. Their technology is useless. Their ability to threaten anyone has been permanently eliminated. This is what happens when you wage war on humanity. The silence in the council chamber was complete. Every species present understood that they were witnessing a historical moment. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Taemin delivered his final words. We did not ask for this war. We did not want to become what we have become. But when faced with extinction, humanity chose to fight with everything we had. Remember this lesson well. We are no longer a minor species. We are the species that other predators should fear. As Taemin left the council chamber, representatives from dozens of species approached him with requests for mutual defense treaties. Everyone wanted to be humanity's ally. No one wanted to be their enemy. The war was over, but its consequences would reshape galactic politics for generations. Humanity had proven that technological superiority and numerical advantage meant nothing against a species that refused to accept defeat. Fleet Admiral Sang-Min Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship as it emerged from the hidden asteroid shipyard. The Gwangju's Vengeance was unlike any ship humans had ever built before. Its black hull absorbed light and sensor beams. Its weapons were designed to destroy enemies so completely that nothing would remain. Behind his ship, hundreds of other vessels appeared from their hiding places throughout the asteroid belt. These were not the desperate defenders who had fought the Valthans 8 months ago. This was humanity's true military force, built in secret while the aliens celebrated their fake victory. Sang-Min had been waiting for this moment since the surrender. Every day of pretending to be defeated had been torture. Watching alien soldiers march through human cities, seeing Valtan ships patrol Earth's skies, knowing that his people were being murdered while he hid in the darkness. But the waiting was over. Intelligence reports showed that the Valtan occupation forces had become lazy and overconfident. They no longer posted strong guards around their bases. They no longer sent scout ships to check for hidden human activity. They thought humanity was finished. The aliens were about to learn the difference between surrender and preparation. Captain Insu, Yoon received his orders while orbiting Mars in his stealth cruiser Sol's Hammer. His target was the main Valtan command center that controlled all alien operations in the inner solar system. The base was heavily defended, but the aliens were not expecting an attack. Insu's ship approached Mars using a flight path that looked like a piece of space debris. His hull coating made the cruiser invisible to most sensors. The few alien patrol ships that detected something unusual dismissed it as asteroid fragments. The attack began at exactly midnight, Earth time. Insu's weapons officer fired the first shot of humanity's real war. The new plasma cannons tore through Valtan shields like they were made of paper. The aliens' defensive systems simply could not handle weapons they had never seen before. The command center's destruction was not just militarily devastating. It was psychologically crushing. For 8 months, the Valthans had believed they were the superior force. They thought human technology was primitive and weak. Watching their strongest base get destroyed in minutes shattered that confidence. But Insu's attack was only the beginning. All across the solar system, human ships began emerging from hiding. The aliens had been fighting ghosts for 8 months without knowing it. Dr. So-Young Kim was in the Valtan research facility on Europa when the uprising began. She had been pretending to help the aliens catalog Earth's biological specimens. In reality, she had been sabotaging their equipment and gathering intelligence. When the attack started, So-Young activated a hidden transmitter that broadcast a message to every human in the solar system. Her voice carried across all frequencies, overriding alien communication networks. "This is Dr. So-Young Kim speaking to all humans everywhere. The Valthans wanted to exterminate us because they thought we were weak. They believed we would surrender like the 17 other species they murdered. They were wrong." Her broadcast continued. "We are not the desperate defenders they destroyed 8 months ago. We are not the broken survivors they have been processing. We are humanity at war. We fight not for territory or resources. We fight to make sure these monsters can never threaten another species again." The message had a powerful effect on both humans and aliens. Human prisoners in processing centers began fighting their guards with bare hands. Valtan soldiers realized that the scattered resistance they had been fighting was actually an organized military force. Colonel Yoon Lee led the liberation of Luna Base. Her assault force approached the moon using the same stealth technology that had hidden the fleet. The Valtan garrison was expecting another small raid by desperate survivors. Instead, they faced a coordinated attack by professional soldiers using advanced weapons. Yoonji's troops did not just defeat the alien occupation force. They systematically destroyed every piece of Valtan technology on the base: communication equipment, weapon systems, supply depots, repair facilities. Everything the aliens needed to operate was methodically eliminated. The attack on Luna Base followed a pattern that would be repeated throughout the solar system. Human forces were not just trying to win battles. They were making sure the Valthans could never recover from their defeats. When Yoonji's soldiers captured alien prisoners, they did not execute them immediately. Instead, they forced the Valthans to watch as their equipment was destroyed. The aliens had to see their weapons being melted down, their computers being smashed, their supplies being scattered into space. "You wanted to show us what you were," Yoonji told the captured Valtan commander. "Now we are showing you what we are. We do not just fight to win, we fight to make sure you can never threaten anyone again." The psychological impact of these attacks spread quickly through Valthan communication networks. Alien commanders throughout the galaxy began receiving reports of impossible human victories. Ships that had been destroyed were somehow fighting again. Weapons that should not exist were tearing through Valthan defenses. Commander Jaewon Kim coordinated resistance cells on 12 different worlds simultaneously. The underground network he had built during the occupation became the foundation for a galaxy-wide rebellion. Every human who had been captured, every settlement that had been destroyed, every family that had been murdered, all of it had created a network of people with nothing left to lose. The resistance fighters used tactics the Violtans had never encountered before. They would attack supply convoys, steal alien equipment, then use that equipment against other Valthan forces. They sabotaged communication networks so alien commanders could not coordinate their responses. Most importantly, the Resistance began broadcasting recordings of Valthan atrocities to other species throughout the galaxy. The aliens had hidden their genocides for thousands of years. Now every civilized world could see what the Valthans really were. The broadcast showed alien soldiers murdering human children. They showed processing centers where entire families were systematically executed. They showed Valthan commanders discussing which species to exterminate next. These recordings had an unexpected effect. Other alien species that had been neutral in the conflict began secretly supporting the human resistance. They realized that if humanity fell, they might be the Valthan's next target. Dr. Wu Jin Kang's experimental weapons proved more effective than anyone had hoped. The memory killer virus spread through Valthan computer networks faster than the aliens could contain it. Within weeks, enemy forces were losing access to technical manuals, star charts, and tactical databases. Valthan ships began breaking down because their crews could not access repair instructions. Communication networks failed because operators could not remember security codes. Weapon systems stopped working because the computers controlling them had forgotten how to aim. The silence maker devices disrupted alien coordination on a massive scale. Valthan fleets that had operated as unified forces suddenly found themselves split into isolated groups that could not communicate with each other. The Ghostfire system created chaos in enemy formations. Alien commanders would order attacks on human fleets that turned out to be sensor phantoms. They would retreat from empty space because their instruments showed massive human forces that did not exist. But the most devastating weapon was something Dr. Wu Jin had not planned. It was the simple fact that humans refused to fight like any species the Valthans had encountered before. Previous enemies had tried to negotiate when defeat became obvious. They had offered tribute, surrender terms, or requests for mercy. Humans did none of these things. They fought with a single-minded determination that the aliens found terrifying. Human soldiers would continue fighting even when their ships were destroyed and their weapons were gone. They would use hand tools, improvised explosives, or their bare hands to keep killing Valthans. They seemed to have no concept of hopeless odds or acceptable losses. Admiral Sang Min received reports from across the galaxy, showing the same pattern everywhere. Human forces were not just winning battles. They were winning them so completely that surviving Valthans could barely describe what had happened. The aliens had expected to fight a desperate species trying to survive. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that treated total war as a starting point, rather than an escalation. Valthan High Command began receiving urgent requests for reinforcements from throughout their empire. But no matter how many ships they sent, human forces seemed to grow stronger instead of weaker. The Valthan Supreme Commander called an emergency meeting of the alien leadership. The species that was supposed to be extinct in another few months had somehow become the greatest threat the Empire had ever faced. How is this possible? The Supreme Commander demanded. We destroyed their fleets. We occupied their worlds. We processed millions of their people. Where are these ships coming from? None of the alien generals had good answers. They had been fighting what they thought was the scattered remnants of a broken species. The idea that humans had been preparing for 8 months while pretending to surrender was unthinkable, but the evidence was overwhelming. Humanity had not just survived the Valthan invasion. General Kyung-Soo Han watched the surrender ceremony from his hidden bunker beneath the Swiss mountains. On every television screen in the world, humans saw Admiral He Jin-cho handing over Earth's military codes to a tall alien commander. People in the streets were crying. Children were scared. It looked like humanity had given up. But Kyung-soo was not crying. He was counting. Every minute the aliens spent celebrating was another minute for Project Lazarus to work. The surrender was fake. It was the biggest lie in human history, and it had to be perfect. For 8 months, Kyung-soo had been preparing for this moment. While the space battles were happening, he was building a secret network of hidden bases throughout the solar system, underground factories on asteroids, weapon storage facilities inside dead moons, training camps in the deep caves of Mars. The most important part of the plan was making the aliens believe they had really won. Thousands of human soldiers had volunteered to be fake prisoners. They would be captured and interrogated by the Vailthans. Under torture, they would reveal false information about human military strength and hiding places. Real military leaders like Admiral Cho would appear to be broken and defeated. They would cooperate with the aliens and help them locate human survivors. But every piece of information they gave would be carefully planned to help the resistance. The aliens had to believe that humanity was completely beaten. If they suspected a trap, Project Lazarus would fail, and every human in the galaxy would die. Intelligence Officer Jun-Ho Park was one of the volunteers who got himself captured on purpose. He had spent 2 years studying captured Vailthan technology and learning their language. When the alien soldiers found him hiding in a destroyed building on Mars, he acted terrified and helpless. The Vailthans brought Jun-Ho to their command ship for questioning. He told them he was a low-ranking communications officer who knew nothing important. The aliens believed him because he seemed so scared and weak. What they did not know was that Jun-Ho had hidden a tiny recording device inside his tooth. The device was so small that alien scanners could not detect it. While pretending to be a frightened prisoner, Jun-Ho was actually gathering intelligence about enemy operations. During his 3 weeks in the alien prison, Jun-Ho learned terrible things about Vailthan society. They were not just conquerors who wanted to rule other species. They were genocidal killers who enjoyed exterminating entire civilizations. The aliens had a word in their language that meant species, cleansing. They had used this process on 17 different intelligent races over the past 1,000 years. Each time they would study the target species, find their weaknesses, then systematically murder every living member of that race. Humans were just the latest species on their list. The Vailthans planned to kill every human in the galaxy over the next year. Then they would move on to find another species to destroy. It was how their society worked. They stayed strong by constantly finding new enemies to eliminate. Jun-Ho also discovered that the Vailthans were very predictable. They followed the same occupation patterns they had used on previous worlds. First, they would gather all surviving members of the target species in processing centers. Then they would sort them by age, health, and intelligence. Finally, they would kill them all in a specific order. This information was exactly what General Kyung-soo needed. If the aliens always did the same things, humans could prepare for their methods. Dr. So-Young Kim was working in a different kind of prison. The aliens had captured her because they needed human scientists to help catalog Earth's biological resources. They planned to keep some Earth plants and animals as specimens after all the humans were dead. So-Young pretended to cooperate while secretly studying the Vailthans themselves. She discovered that the aliens had a crucial weakness: they were not very creative. Their technology was advanced, but it was all based on designs that were thousands of years old. They never invented new things or solved problems in original ways. This explained why they had been surprised by human tactics during the space battles. The Vailthans expected every species to fight the same way. When humans used guerrilla warfare and suicide attacks, the aliens had trouble adapting to these strategies. So-Young also learned about Vailthan biology. The aliens were much stronger than humans, but they had poor eyesight in certain types of light. Their hearing was very sensitive to high-frequency sounds. Most importantly, they could not survive in Earth's atmosphere for more than a few hours without their breathing equipment. Every piece of information So-Young discovered was secretly transmitted to the resistance through coded messages hidden in her scientific reports. Commander Jae-won Kim was leading the underground resistance on occupied Mars. His job was to make the aliens believe that human resistance was weak and disorganized. Every attack his people made had to look desperate and random, but nothing Jae-won did was actually random. Every ambush, every sabotage mission, every act of resistance was carefully planned to gather more intelligence about enemy operations. His fighters would attack a Vailthan patrol, kill a few alien soldiers, then run away. The aliens would think they were dealing with scattered, frightened survivors. In reality, J1's people were learning everything they could about alien equipment, tactics, and psychology. They discovered that Velthan soldiers became overconfident very quickly. After winning a few easy battles, the aliens would start taking unnecessary risks and making tactical mistakes. The resistance fighters also learned to recognize different types of alien technology. Some Velthan weapons were powerful, but had limited energy supplies. Others were reliable but took a long time to recharge between shots. This information would be crucial when the real fighting started. Most importantly, J1's teams mapped every alien-based supply depot and communication center on Mars. They knew where the Velthans kept their ammunition, where they repaired their ships, and how they transported supplies between different facilities. All of this intelligence was sent to the hidden bases where General Kyung-soo was preparing for the next phase of Project Lazarus. In the secret facility beneath Mount Fuji, Dr. Woojin Kang was completing the most important work of his life. For 10 months, he had been developing weapons unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These were not just improved versions of human technology. They were completely new ways of fighting war. The first weapon was called the Silence Maker. It used focused sound waves to disrupt Velthan communication systems. When activated, the device would prevent alien forces from talking to each other over distances greater than a few hundred meters. Large-scale military operations would become impossible. The second weapon was the Ghost Fire system. It created false images on Velthan sensors, making one human ship look like 10 ships, or making empty space appear to contain a massive fleet. Enemy commanders would waste time and resources attacking targets that did not exist. But Woojin's greatest achievement was the Memory Killer. This weapon did not just destroy alien equipment. It erased the digital information stored in Velthan computers. Technical manuals, tactical databases, star charts, communication codes. Everything the aliens needed to operate their military would simply disappear. The Memory Killer could also prevent the aliens from rebuilding their technology. It would infect their computer networks like a virus, making it impossible for them to store or access technical information for months or even years. While Woojin worked on his weapons, construction crews in the hidden asteroid bases were building a new kind of human fleet. These ships looked similar to the vessels the Velthans had already destroyed, but they were completely different inside. The new ships had stealth systems that could make them invisible to alien sensors. They carried the experimental weapons Dr. Woojin had designed. Most importantly, they were built by people who now understood exactly how the enemy thought and fought. Every ship captain had studied recordings of Velthan tactics. Every gunner had practiced shooting at alien ship designs. Every engineer knew how to repair battle damage using only the materials that would be available during a long campaign far from Earth. The new fleet was not just bigger than the old one. It was smarter, meaner, and completely dedicated to a single purpose, making the Velthans pay for every human life they had taken. After 8 months of occupation, the aliens had become comfortable. They thought human resistance was almost finished. Small groups of desperate survivors were still hiding in remote locations, but they posed no real threat to Velthan operations. The alien commanders were already making plans to move on to their next target. They had identified another species in a distant galaxy that would be easy to exterminate. Humans were almost finished, and it was time to start thinking about the next genocide. This was exactly what General Kyung-soo had been waiting for. The aliens were overconfident. They had stopped paying attention to what humans were really doing. They thought they knew everything about human military capabilities. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In hidden bases throughout the solar system, human soldiers received the same message. Operation Lazarus is now active. Show them what we really are. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun Nam stood on the bridge of his command ship, Incheon's Pride. Through the large windows, he could see hundreds of human warships spread out across space. Every ship Earth could build or repair was now part of the defense fleet. It looked impressive until he thought about what was coming. The Velthan Armada had been spotted 3 days ago at the edge of the solar system. The enemy fleet was massive. Intelligence reports counted over 10,000 ships. Some of the alien vessels were so big they looked like flying cities. Earth's entire defense fleet had only 800 ships. Dong Hyun had been fighting space battles for 30 years. He had never seen odds this bad. The Velthans had energy shields that could stop human weapons. Their plasma cannons could cut through human armor like it was paper. Their ships were 3 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. But Earth would not surrender. Every man and woman in the fleet knew they were probably going to die. They also knew they were fighting for every human life in the galaxy. That made the terrible odds easier to accept. The first battle happened near Jupiter. The Velthans sent a small force to test human defenses. Captain Min Ho-jang commanded the patrol ships that met them. His 6 destroyers fought 30 alien cruisers. The human ships used hit-and-run tactics. They would attack quickly, then run away before the aliens could respond. Min Ho's ships darted between Jupiter's moons, using the planet's gravity and radiation to confuse enemy sensors. The strategy worked better than anyone expected. Human ships were smaller and faster than Velthan vessels. The aliens were built for overwhelming force, not quick movement. When Min Ho's destroyers attacked from multiple directions at once, the alien ships had trouble responding. By the end of the fight, the humans had destroyed 8 enemy cruisers and damaged 12 more. Min Ho lost 2 destroyers, but his small fleet had proven something important. The Velthans could be beaten. Colonel Mi-young Seo was in command of Luna Base when the real invasion began. The moon was humanity's most important military facility outside of Earth. It had weapon factories, training centers, and the largest spaceport in the solar system. The Velthans knew how important Luna Base was. They sent their elite shock troops to capture it quickly. These alien soldiers were bigger and stronger than humans. They wore powered armor and carried weapons that could burn through concrete walls. Mi-young had been preparing for this attack for months. She knew her regular troops could not fight the aliens in direct combat. Instead, she planned to use the moon's environment against the invaders. Luna Base was built inside old mining tunnels that went deep under the moon's surface. The tunnels were narrow and dark, perfect for ambushes. Mi-young soldiers knew every tunnel, every hiding spot, every way in and out of the base. When the Veltan dropships landed, they found the surface buildings almost empty. The aliens expected to fight human soldiers in the open courtyards and landing pads. Instead, they found empty rooms and locked doors. The real fighting happened underground. Mi-young's troops used explosive traps and hidden weapons to attack the alien soldiers. In the narrow tunnels, the Velthans could not use their superior numbers. They had to fight in small groups where human soldiers could surround them. The aliens were stronger and better armed, but they did not know the terrain. Human soldiers would attack from hidden positions, kill a few enemies, then disappear into other tunnels before the aliens could react. The battle for Luna Base lasted 3 weeks. Every day, more Veltan soldiers arrived. Every day, Mi-young lost more of her troops. But the base did not fall. The aliens controlled some of the surface buildings, but they could not capture the underground facilities where humans built their weapons and ships. During the siege, Mi-young made an important discovery. The Veltan soldiers were very good at following orders, but they were not good at thinking for themselves. They used the same attack patterns over and over. Once human defenders learned these patterns, the aliens became predictable. "They think we are primitive," Mi-young told her officers during a brief meeting between attacks. "They do not study our tactics or adapt to our strategies. They just try to overwhelm us with superior firepower." This overconfidence was the aliens' weakness. They had conquered so many species that they expected every battle to be easy. They did not prepare for enemies who could think creatively or fight in unexpected ways. While Luna Base held out, Dr. Wu-jin Kang worked in the secret laboratories deep under Geneva, Switzerland. His job was to develop new weapons that could hurt the Veltan ships. The problem was that alien technology was much more advanced than human technology. Wu-jin could not build better shields or more powerful energy weapons. Humans did not have the knowledge or materials for that kind of technology. Instead, he focused on what humans did best, taking peaceful technology and turning it into weapons of war. His breakthrough came from studying human mining equipment. The machines used to dig tunnels on asteroids used focused gravity beams to break apart rock. Wu-jin realized these beams could be modified to damage alien ship hulls. He also worked on improving human missiles. The Velthans had good defenses against energy weapons, but they were not as good at stopping physical projectiles. Wu-jin designed new warheads that could punch through alien armor, then explode inside enemy ships. The most important project was developing stealth technology. If human ships could hide from alien sensors, They could launch surprise attacks. Wu Jin's team created a coating that absorbed enemy radar signals and made human ships almost invisible. These new weapons arrived just in time. The main Velthan fleet reached Mars after 4 months of fighting. Admiral Dong Hyun knew this would be the most important battle of the war. If Mars fell, Earth would be the aliens' next target. Captain Sul Ki-yoon commanded a battle group of 20 cruisers defending the Red Planet. The Velthan sent 200 ships to attack the human fleet. Everyone knew the human ships were outnumbered 10-1. Sul Ki made a decision that shocked both her crew and the enemy. Instead of trying to defend Mars from a distance, she ordered her ships to fly directly into the middle of the alien formation. At close range, the big Velthan ships could not use their most powerful weapons without hitting their own vessels. The battle became a wild free-for-all. Human and alien ships were mixed together in a giant ball of fighting spacecraft. Sul Ki's cruisers used their speed and agility to dart between the bigger enemy vessels, firing at weak spots in the alien armor. The strategy worked, but the cost was terrible. One by one, Sul Ki's ships were destroyed by overwhelming enemy fire. She kept fighting even when her ship was badly damaged and most of her crew was dead. Her final message to Admiral Dong Hyun was heard throughout the human fleet. Make them pay for every human life. Sul Ki's sacrifice gave the evacuation ships time to escape from Mars with thousands of civilians. More importantly, her battle group destroyed 37 Velthan ships before being wiped out. The aliens won the battle, but they learned that humans would not die easily. After 6 months of fighting, Earth's orbital defenses were almost gone. Mars had fallen. The outer colonies were overrun, but Earth itself still stood. The planet was scarred by fallen debris from space battles, but 20 billion humans were still alive. Admiral Hyejin Cho made the hardest decision of her life. Earth could not win this war with direct military force. The Velthans were too strong and too numerous. But humans might have one more option. She broadcast a message to the Velthan fleet commander. This is Admiral Hyejin Cho of the Earth Defense Forces. We surrender. Humanity accepts defeat. We request terms for the survival of our species. The alien response came quickly. Humans will report to designated processing centers. Resistance will result in immediate execution. Your species will be extinct within 1 standard year. As the surrender was announced, millions of humans across Earth wept in despair. The brave defense fleet that had fought so hard was ordered to power down their weapons and prepare for alien occupation. But not everyone was crying. In hidden bunkers and secret facilities, some humans smiled grimly. The surrender was not real. It was part of a plan that would either save humanity or destroy it completely. The Velthans celebrated their victory. They thought they had broken human resistance. They prepared to begin the systematic murder of every person on Earth. They did not realize they had just walked into the most elaborate trap in human history. Commander Taemin Park stared at the screens in front of him. The defense station Soul Guardian floated quietly in space, watching over Earth's outer colonies. He had been doing this job for 10 years now. Most days were boring. Ships came and went. Nothing exciting ever happened. Taemin liked it that way. Peace was good for everyone. Humans had spread to 12 different star systems over the past 50 years. Each colony was doing well. Farmers grew food. Miners dug up metals. Scientists studied new worlds. Life was good. The other alien races in the galaxy thought humans were not very important. They called humans a minor species. Sure, humans had decent technology and could build good spaceships. But politically, no one really cared what humans thought about anything. Taemin was drinking his morning coffee when the first alarm went off. Red lights flashed on his control panel. He sat up straight and looked at the communication screen. A message was coming in from the outer colonies. Dr. So-Young Kim was in her lab on Earth when her computer started making noise. She was the planet's best expert on alien life forms. She studied creatures from all over the galaxy. Her job was usually quiet too. Today felt different. The message on her screen was broken and hard to read. It came from Colony 7, one of the furthest human settlements. The words made her blood run cold. Help us. They came from nowhere. Ships everywhere. Everyone is. Signal breaking up. Then nothing. Just silence. So-Young tried to contact Colony 7 again. No answer. She tried Colony 8. No answer. She tried Colony 9, still nothing. 3 entire worlds had just stopped talking to Earth. Her hands shook as she called the military headquarters. This was not normal. Colonies did not just go quiet like this. Captain Jinwoo Lee was eating lunch when the emergency call came through. He commanded Earth's fastest military ship, the Busan Runner. The ship was designed for quick trips to check on distant colonies. Jinwoo had made this kind of trip many times before. Usually it was just broken communication equipment or solar storms interfering with signals. This time felt different. The military told him to take his ship and a small fleet to investigate Colony Kepler 442b. They had lost contact with over 50,000 people living there. The last message mentioned unknown ships attacking the orbital stations. Jinwoo gathered his crew quickly. They loaded extra medical supplies and emergency equipment. If people were hurt, they needed to be ready to help. The journey to Kepler 442b would take 3 days at maximum speed. During the flight, Jinwoo studied everything he could about the colony. It was one of humanity's most successful settlements. The planet had perfect weather and rich soil. Families had been living there for 20 years. Children had been born there who had never seen Earth. When they arrived at the Kepler system, Jinwoo knew something terrible had happened. The orbital defense platforms were gone. Not damaged or disabled. Completely gone. Only empty space remained where the stations should have been. The planet's surface looked wrong. Brown and black marks covered areas that used to be green farmland. Cities that once glowed with lights were now dark. Jinwoo ordered his ships to scan for life signs. The results made everyone on the bridge go quiet. 50,000 people had lived on this world 3 days ago. Now the scanners found less than 100 human life signs scattered across the entire planet. They landed near what used to be New Seoul, the colony's capital city. The buildings were still standing, but they were empty. Walls were burned black. Streets were covered with strange ash. Everything that could burn had burned. Jinwoo's team found survivors hiding in underground shelters. The people were scared and hurt. They told a story that sounded impossible. Ships came out of nowhere, said an old man named Hyun-soo. His clothes were torn and dirty. Huge ships bigger than our entire city. They didn't try to communicate. They just started shooting. A young woman named Yoon-jung held her crying baby. They weren't trying to capture us or take our things. They were trying to kill everyone. Every single person on the planet, even the children. The survivors described creatures that looked like tall insects walking on 2 legs. They wore armor and carried weapons that shot beams of light. But the aliens were not interested in taking prisoners or stealing resources. They methodically went through every building, every house, every hiding spot. They were hunting humans. They called us contamination, whispered another survivor. I heard them talking to each other. They said humans were a disease that needed to be cleaned from the galaxy. Jinwoo felt sick. This was not a normal military attack. This was an attempt to murder everyone on an entire world. And they had almost succeeded. His communication officer received a priority message from Earth. Admiral Hyejin Cho wanted to speak with him immediately. Jinwoo went to his private cabin and activated the secure channel. Admiral Cho's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired and worried. Captain Lee, what is your status? Admiral, this colony has been almost completely destroyed. We have maybe 100 survivors out of 50,000 people. The attackers were not interested in conquest. They wanted extinction. Admiral Cho closed her eyes for a moment. We have received similar reports from 6 other colonies. The species attacking us calls themselves the Vielthans. They are a military empire that controls hundreds of star systems. She continued. Jinwoo, they have sent Earth an official message. They claim humans are a biological threat to galactic stability. They demand our complete surrender for what they call processing. If we refuse, they promise to eliminate every human in the galaxy. Jinwoo stared at the screen. Processing? What does that mean? Based on what we have seen at the colonies, I think it means systematic murder. They do not want to rule us or enslave us. They want us gone. Admiral Cho looked directly into the camera. Captain, I need you to document everything you see on that planet. Take pictures. Record survivor statements. The Velthan fleet is already moving toward Earth. They have thousands of ships. We have maybe 6 months before they arrive. What are our orders, Admiral? We fight. Earth's government has voted unanimously. We will not surrender to genocide. Every human in every colony, every ship, every station will resist with everything we have. Jinwoo nodded. Understood, Admiral. We will make them pay for what they did here. After ending the call, Jinwoo stood looking out at the dead colony below. The Velthans thought humans were weak. They thought killing 50,000 innocent people would scare Earth into giving up. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Every human in the solar system learned about the attacks. They learned about the ultimatum. They learned that an alien empire wanted to murder their entire species. The response was immediate and universal. Every human settlement, every space station, every mining facility sent the same message to Earth's government. We stand together. We fight together. Commander Taemin received new orders at his station. Soul Guardian was no longer just monitoring peaceful trade. It was now the first line of defense in a war for human survival. The Velthans had made one critical mistake. They assumed humans would react like the other species they had destroyed. They expected fear, panic, and quick surrender. Instead, they had united every human in the galaxy with a single purpose: make the aliens regret ever hearing the word human.